I'm Jen here on the Chef Girl Nutrition Facebook page. I'm here live every Tuesday doing a healthy cooking demo, some type of quick demo that teaches you some sort of cooking skill, some sort of cooking technique, something like that you can walk away from these demos hopefully with something tangible that you can apply in your life right away. This month of February is actually American Heart Month. So American Heart Month, of course we care about our heart health all year long, but American Heart Month is just kind of a month to really put a lot of focus on our heart health and bring a lot of awareness to that. And nutrition and the food that you eat plays a really big role in heart health. Nutrition can have a really big impact in that area, and it's one of the areas of health where nutrition can have a real sort of preventative kind of impact, right? So we can kind of get ahead of certain diseases, and especially when we're talking about heart health, paying attention to getting, I always like to talk about the foods that we eat and how it relates to our health goals, coming at that from a perspective of what can I add more of into my diet, rather than thinking about what am I eating that I really shouldn't be, right? Rather than coming at it from that place of like restriction and feeling like certain foods are bad, we're going to talk about it in the context of what can I eat more of, right? Or what am I lacking in my diet that could give me some more health benefit, right? Without having to give up the foods that I love. Maybe there's some things that I can add in to kind of help add more balance in that area. On the topic of heart health for this month of February, kind of ties into what I've been doing with these live demos this whole month, right? So far in February, we've done baked oatmeal, we did freezer-friendly single-serve oatmeal, and today we are sticking on the oat train. I didn't intend for all these make-ahead breakfasts that we're talking about to all be oat-based, but it's working out that way, and for good reason, right? So oats themselves are super high in fiber, right? And fiber is a really essential nutrient when we're talking about heart health. It plays a really big role in heart health, and sometimes we think of fiber really more as something to do with our bellies and making sure that we're going to the bathroom regularly. And while it plays that role in our gut health as well, fiber is a really key nutrient in your heart health as well. So one of the roles of fiber is that it actually kind of like latches on to cholesterol. It kind of helps to bind cholesterol and then excrete it from the body. It helps for less cholesterol to get absorbed back into the body. So fiber plays a really key role in something like lowering cholesterol levels, as an example. So when we're talking about heart healthy breakfast specifically, oats really fit the bill in terms of their fiber content, right? So oats are a whole grain, they're full of fiber, and particularly we're talking about rolled or old-fashioned oats, right? And that's what I've been using in the last couple of recipes. And we're going to dive into today's recipe as well, and that's what you're going to want to use. So the rolled or old-fashioned oats are going to give us the most nutrient value, the most fiber, and in my opinion, the best texture too, right? So there's a little bit more of like a chewy kind of texture with those. So into today's demo, we are making another make-ahead breakfast that is oat-based, and we're making overnight oats. So overnight oats are not really a new thing. They've kind of been around for a few years. They've kind of become popular from different food blogs and things like that, but with good reason. So overnight oats really, it's not just like a trend. It's a really nutritious, satisfying breakfast with another star ingredient that is particularly healthy for our heart, and that is chia seeds. Okay, so let's have some in this container here. They kind of look like poppy seeds, but they're a little bit more, they're a little bit bigger than poppy seeds, and they're a little bit more like oval shaped and a little bit more like three-dimensional almost. So chia seeds are a seed. And you probably hear me talk a lot about add nuts and seeds to this, add some chopped nuts or seeds, right? I'm always talking about nuts and seeds because they're such an easy way to kind of add a real punch of nutrients to a lot of different kinds of dishes, right? So even just a basic oatmeal, adding some chopped nuts or seeds to your oatmeal adds a nice dose of healthy fat, some fiber, and some protein. The great thing about chia seeds is that they're not just very high in fiber, but they are also high in omega-3 fatty acids. And both fiber and omega-3 fatty acids are both really essential nutrients that most adults are not getting enough of. So chia seeds can be a really great way to just add a little dose of fiber, a little dose of omega-3s, not just in these overnight oats, but to anything that you would consider adding some seeds on top, right? Again, like a basic oatmeal, you can sprinkle seeds on. You can sprinkle chia seeds over your yogurt, over your cereal. You can use chia seeds in baked goods, in smoothies. You can mix them into, a grain. You can sprinkle them over a salad, right? They don't really have a very distinct taste on their own. So it can just be a really simple way. Just add a sprinkling. 1 tablespoon of chia seeds has about 5 grams of fiber. And if you use a serving of 2 tablespoons, you're gonna get almost 10 grams of fiber that way. So they really do pack a really hefty punch of fiber along with those omega-3s. And when we're talking about heart health in particular, omega-3 fatty acids are really important for our heart health, right? And so other sources of that, are things like fatty fish, like salmon you hear a lot about with omega-3s. If you take an omega-3 supplement, it might be a fish oil supplement, right? And that's where that's coming from the oil of a fatty fish like salmon. Let's dive into making the overnight oats, and we'll continue talking about the ingredients as we go. So the overnight oats essentially is oatmeal that you prepare to sit overnight to eat the next day. So basically we're going to get a nice thick creamy oatmeal without cooking it, right? So without it going in the microwave, without putting it on the stovetop. So it is eaten chilled. You can put it in the microwave if you wanted to, but the idea behind it is that you eat it cold. So it also keeps in the fridge for, I'd say like up to 3 days, but it can, it'll be good in the fridge for up to 5 days. So it's definitely something that's meal preppable. So it's something that, I'm just gonna make 1 serving of it here, but it's something that you could definitely, triple the recipe and get 3 breakfasts out of it. Or if you're, if there's 2 of you, you can, make even more and you can each have breakfast for a few days. So you can make a really big batch of the overnight oats and then just either store them in individual containers like this, or scoop a serving out in the morning. So we are using, and we'll talk about this now as we go, there's another quality of chia seeds that makes them particularly useful for overnight oats, and why we're using chia seeds here instead of something like flax seeds, which are also a great source of fiber and omega-3 fatty acids. But what the chia seeds do is they actually absorb liquid and turn into almost like a gel kind of texture. So you might have seen chia pudding around the internet. If you're doing recipe searching, you might see chia pudding kind of as a new, as a trendy kind of snack that's been going around. Again, more than just a trend, it's actually a very nutritious snack. So the idea behind something like chia pudding is that you're really just mixing chia seeds with a liquid, and it turns into this thick kind of gel-like texture that resembles pudding. And that's what's going to happen with these overnight oats too. So I have a 1/2 cup. Remember, I said I'm just doing 1 serving of this, but you can do multiple servings and keep it in your fridge for a few days. So I just have a 1/2 cup of rolled oats here. And with this recipe, you do want to use rolled or old-fashioned oats. Instant oats will turn to complete mush. And steel cut oats just really don't absorb the liquid in the same way because there's much more surface area on the rolled oats. They're much wider. The steel cut oats are like, if you've eaten steel cut oats, you know, right? They're like tiny, you know, like they're not like this at all, right? They're like tiny little pebbles almost. So they don't really absorb the liquid the same. So with my 1/2 cup of oats, I'm adding a tablespoon of these chia seeds. And now this is, so the overnight oats, just like the oatmeal we were talking about last week, the freezer oatmeal, it's very adaptable to your preferences. So I'm just kind of going through like a very basic kind of recipe for just the most basic overnight oats, and then we'll talk about some ways that you can kind of jazz it up. So I always use cinnamon in anything like oatmeal breakfasty. So I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon in there. I'm also going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then we're going to add our liquid. So the liquid for overnight oats, I recommend using some sort of milk versus water, because milk will give a little bit more of a creamy texture and it adds some flavor, right? Water is no flavor. So I definitely recommend using milk, but you can use any type of milk, dairy milk, non-dairy milk. If you want it to be a little bit higher protein, you can do something, either dairy milk, or if you're doing a non-dairy alternative, soy milk, or like a pea protein based milk. Those would be, you know, those would be higher protein plant-based milks. So we want to use, I say it's anywhere, honestly, from like a 1/2 cup to up to a cup of milk. And that depends on what you're adding into your overnight oats. So something that I often will add in is like a third of a cup, a real big scoop of plain Greek yogurt, because that adds a nice extra punch of protein. If you add something like yogurt into the oats, it's gonna make it thicker. So then I would add closer to a cup of milk. Similarly, you could add something like a nut butter or a seed butter, right? So peanut butter, almond butter, sunflower seed butter, something like that. You could add, you know, a tablespoon of a nut butter into your oats, and again, that's gonna make it a little bit thicker, so I would add a little bit more than a 1/2 cup. So I would say for the minimum for just a basic overnight oats, you want a 1/2 cup of milk, and you might want to add a little bit more. And you can always add a little bit more in the morning before you go to eat it too. If it's too thick, you can always add a little bit more liquid. So I'm just gonna add about a 1/2 cup. And so when you first make it, it's gonna be liquidy. That's why it sits overnight. And technically it will thicken up after a few hours. So it's something that, you know, you can make it in the morning and have it as an afternoon snack or an evening snack that same day. But when we're talking about it being for breakfast, we're thinking about making it the night before or on your prep day, and then it's sitting overnight. So that's all that making the overnights entails. And I also have here, which I'm gonna add in, I have just some frozen blueberries, about a 1/4 cup. So you can add any sort of, runaway berry. You can add any sort of fruit into your oats the night before. Of course, you can also add toppings the day that you're eating it as well. Okay, my blueberries turned everything a lovely shade of blue purple. But so I didn't defrost the blueberries at all, right? They'll just kind of defrost while they're sitting in here. And by tomorrow, everything will be nice and thickened up. So that's it for making the overnight oats. So we're just gonna pop the lid on that, and it's gonna go right in the fridge. just like that. I also sometimes will make them in a mason jar. That's another, if you don't have like a good size container for it, something like a mason jar is a really good vessel for the oats. And that's it for the demo. That's it for how to make them, right? So like I said, you can really play around with how you make them. If you search overnight oats on Google, you'll get a bajillion different types of overnight oats from a lot of different food blogs and things, but it can be a great way to kind of give you some ideas of what to do. So like I said, you can add something like nut butter in there, any kind of fruit, some chopped up fruit, whatever kinds of spices you like. So like I said, I always use cinnamon and vanilla in things like this. You could add some nutmeg, some ground cloves, whatever your favorite kind of sweet spices are. Also, so I didn't put any sweetener in this. You totally can add like a teaspoon or two of honey or maple syrup into your oats. I would say maybe for the first time, make them without sweetener and see if you need it, because depending on what type of milk you're using, right, like even dairy milk has natural sugar in it, right? Regular milk tastes sweet. So I usually find that I don't need any extra sweetener in the overnight oats. Also, if you've added, like I added the cinnamon, the vanilla, the blueberries, so depending on the stuff that you're adding in there, you might not need extra sweetener, and it can be a good place to kind of cut back on added sugars. If you taste it, make it without any sweetener, and if you feel like you don't need it, then that's great. Then you're not having any added sugar in the breakfast at all, right? It's just coming from natural sources like whatever milk you're using and any fruit or anything like that you're adding. If you do feel like you need sweetener, in one serving, I'd say you probably just need like 1 or 2 teaspoons of maple syrup or honey would be great. So that's it with this demo. I want you to take away from it to get adventurous with chia seeds a little bit. Test them out. If there's somewhere that you are typically adding seeds, maybe you like pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds, or even where you're using chopped up nuts, you can use chia seeds instead, and it's just like a quick, you don't have to do anything. There's no preparation needed with the chia seeds. So it's just a really quick way to add a good boost of nutrition to just about anything. It works in sweet things and savory things, and you just need 1 or 2, really just 1 tablespoon to get a good healthy dose of fiber and those omega-3 fatty acids. So I will be sure tomorrow morning when I take out my breakfast, I will be sure to take a little video to show you how the texture changes and how it really thickens up. And this recipe, along with the last couple of recipes that we've done for these breakfasts, those are also getting posted in the Facebook group. So definitely head over to the Healthy Cooking Community Facebook group if you're not there already to get some extra information. So that's it for our overnight oats, another great make ahead breakfast that also is very heart healthy for American Heart Month, this month of February. Thank you all for joining me, and if any questions come up, and like I said, head over to the Facebook group if you have any questions in particular about eating for heart health.